Welcome to another weekly episode of Marked Out Radio. I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
And we have quite an amusing follow-up to one of our stories from last week. Things on... Well, I guess we can start out by talking about, Zach Linder's report from that... What was it called? The wrestling thing he went to in White Plains or something?
It was the BG Entertainment signing in... I don't see an actual name in his top of his report.
So one of the more interesting, I guess, how it started aspects of this is that post absolutely blew up on social media, way more than is typical for things that are posted on our group.
Yeah, it really. Last I checked, it was north of like 100,000 impressions. It really, really, really went viral.
Which is pretty funny because, I mean, not for nothing, we really don't have much go viral too frequently. And it was a good report. It was interesting, but it wasn't something that was so atypical on that group that you would think would draw so many eyeballs. But whatever, the algorithm smiled favorably on it. And so, anytime something in a public group goes viral like that, you inevitably start to attract comments and shares and things from strangers. So it's kind of like virality creates virality because you have strangers coming in and strangers reading it and sharing it and liking it and commenting, which then continues to fuel the algorithm. And so there were all kinds of people coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, you really had you had the people that actually understand what's going on in the hobby. You had random people that were just upset about various aspects of the report that really meant nothing. It was a whole medley, and that was basically until I believe someone shared or he found it, but the promoter involved with BG Entertainment found and discovered the thread, and then he joined in.
Well, to be fair, you're forgetting a key piece of context, and I must admit that I've fueled that what happened next a little bit. He tried to report the post to the admins, which is us, for hate speech, which is just the funniest thing because, like, if you know Zach and you've met Zach, and I've met Zach a few times now, like, hate speech is the last thing that comes out of someone like Zach Linder. Like, he's a very easygoing guy. He's not like hateful at all. It's almost a hilarious thing to use, and hate speech basically because Zach brought up some mild customer service issues with how the signing was run. Nothing that anyone with a little bit of a backbone would even care about. But anyway, he goes to report the post, and I don't know. I was feeling in a mood or whatever. I went into the administrative panel for the group. I screenshotted the report for hate speech, and then I posted the screenshot to the group and just sort of asked publicly who on earth would consider this post hate speech. And that sort of then fueled the whole conflict.
And then to make it one up on what you did, I then added him under your post and said to him, "Where is the hate speech?" So we both kind of poured some gasoline on that one.
Well, it was one of those things that, look, it is extraordinarily cowardly, I think, to resort to censorship when someone is trying to criticize you legitimately. I think it's, to me, attempting to resort to censorship just indicates that your position cannot be won on the merits. Like, the idea is, anyway, sort of an American value, right? That the more free speech there is, the closer to the truth that we get. That's kind of one of the key founding principles of civilized society. We don't want to censor things. We rather just, if someone is wrong about something, it'll come out with enough open conversation about that thing. And so this guy, in response to mild criticism of his event, he ended up causing something like the Streisand effect. Are you familiar with the Streisand effect?
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Okay. So the Streisand effect refers to an incident years ago where a helicopter photo of Barbra Streisand's property was published, right? when I say if you can you can find this picture anywhere. It's a pretty common photo. You Google Streisand effect. It is not a remarkable photo. It's a bird's eye view of her property. And long story short, she went absolutely crazy, started filing all kinds of lawsuits to get that picture removed from, existence. And what happened to that picture is more people know about that picture. And that picture is available in so many places because drawing attention to a thing by trying to censor it only amplifies the thing instead of just letting it quietly go away. And truthfully, the critiques of this guy's show were so mild that they would have quietly gone away, but for the fact that he began amplifying them and acting like a complete lunatic in public and displaying some of the worst customer service practices I've ever seen.
Yeah, like he started off with the replies, which were honestly bad enough, and then he went another step further and he went to make an actual post. And I know you and I kind of discussed like whether or not we should approve the post because he kind of got a little he got a little saucy there at the end.
Yeah, let's be open about it. He says he regretted not slapping Zach in the face at the show. That was the language that he used. I wish I had slapped him in the face. And I was just like, well, what do we do? We don't allow threats of physical violence. But he wasn't threatening physical violence. He was saying he wished he had. So it was a little bit wishy-washy,
Yeah. His exact quote, just to quote it accurately, was, "My only regret is not slapping him in person. Sorry, not sorry." And then I responded with, "Okay, let me see if I understand this. You run a business, and your response to criticism from a paying customer is showing regret that you didn't assault them." And
look, let's be honest, though. One of the reasons why these people are enraged because you said it in such a matter-of-fact, dispassionate way, you just kind of laid out the facts, and these people don't think in those terms because they're, the word of the month on this podcast is limited, but this guy is pretty limited. It's very obvious. You read the way he writes, so these people, instead of pausing and reflecting on the facts as they are presented, he instead goes into blind rage, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly right. And to his defense, and to his credit, he did respond to my question with yes and yes. So at least
which I did. As I am laughing now, I did laugh.
Yeah,
pretty wildly at his post.
On some level, I do respect him standing on his business. He said what he said. He's owning it. It's unhinged and deranged. And honestly, I think the absolute worst. I think honestly, if he would have pulled his private out and urinated on Zach's feet, it would have been only equal to what he did now in terms of bad customer service. But I kind of if you're gonna make a tremendous mistake in terms of PR, at least he owned it.
Yeah, he didn't lie and hide and pretend he didn't say it, and then or hide whatever. He was very direct.
So I always respect directness.
Yeah, and the guy's an idiot, but I mean, at least he's on. What you're getting.
Yeah.
So in any case, the whole thread just quickly devolved into total lunacy. With people just pretty incredulous that this guy was just openly expressing his desire to assault his customers, and then he called Zach whiny, and Zach was egging him on. I know I am. It's stuff like that.
I think he also called Zach a little rat, which was actually, which I know Zach got a kick out of that one.
Well, that's one of the funny things about these guys, and you're seeing a pattern, is that these guys for whom this world is such a serious thing because they have nothing else, that when you kind of expose how silly the world is and how little you actually care about it, it makes them even angrier. It's like whatever. It's like the stuff with Richie in the past, or the stuff with this other guy. I don't even know this guy's real name, to be honest. BG is what he goes by. I don't even know what his name is. But the whole point is that Zach is laughing at the fact that this guy is so mad because, again, Zach went and tried to pay some money. He didn't initially get what he paid for. He complained until he got what he paid for, and he did. And that was the end of it. It wasn't like a big deal. He wasn't ripped off. The guy didn't steal from him or anything. It was just, it was the kind of thing where he had to be a little bit of a nudge in public to get what he paid for. Not, I mean, frankly, who of us hasn't done that in this hobby? Happens all the time. You have to. And so it really wasn't even a big deal. And then other people had chimed in that this was not the first time they'd heard stories about this guy running signings in it. And it was more that the signing was disorganized. Not that it wasn't bad per se. It was just disorganized. People were getting what they paid for. But the problem was, this guy, I pour my life into this. I take it personally. This is my, and it's like, dude, stop. It's not that serious. You don't know how to run a line. Learn how to run a line, and your shows will be better. It's not that hard. These guys get crazed when you point out that their world is very small. I guess it kind of inflicts an undesirable dose of like reality and self-consciousness, and they get all nutty about it. And that's my take, for whatever it's worth.
Yeah. And I think the line that really amused me was he was outraged at Zach pointing out that Sabu was still on the graphic despite dying. And he was talking about how he was close personal friends with Sabu. And I mean, whenever a promoter vendor says that, I kind of like, my knee-jerk reaction is just to roll my eyes, because I mean, so often do we see that it's just complete like delusion and just lying to themselves and others about this thing that no one should really lie about. I mean, we spent an afternoon with Hack. I mean, am I going to go lie to people that were friends? Is that going to like help me in any way that I have some relationship with Hack, which I obviously clearly do not have? Like, I don't understand it, but whatever.
But one of those things is weird. Like, do you go around bragging that you're friends with somebody? I've never bragged about, like, it's just not a thing. Who cares? If you're like, let's say you were friends with Sabu. I mean, look, Sabu's a human being. Ostensibly, he had friends. Right? Is that out of the realm of possibility that he has some friends in the world, or had anyway? He's now dead, so he doesn't have any friends. But anyway, I digress. But it's like that's not out of the realm of possibility. But it's so cringy to then brag about it. It's so cringy to then brag about it. It's so strange. But again, this hobby is filled with these people where you just want to shake your head at the level of dysfunction of their lives, and it causes me to all the time look at my own life and say, how is it that I am occupying the same sphere as these degenerates, and these low lives? Because I like the same thing that they do, multiple same things that they do. We have maybe I need to get off my high horse and play in the mud a little bit. Maybe I'm not as elevated as I think I am. I don't know. But all kidding aside, it's just one of those things. I often shake my head at myself, and also at these guys who just take everything so seriously. That's the part that is funny. So anyway,
the line that popped me from that, which I didn't get out yet, was that you cannot simply delete a friend. And I so badly wanted to say, don't you realize that you're on Facebook? And like, that's exactly what you can do. You delete friends all the time. Like, deleting a friend is extremely possible. But
it was
he was already on the rope. So
it was a strangely melodramatic thing. Where he had a tribute table to Sabu at his store with a cloth on it and all these things. And it's like, all right, sure,
Yeah, it just wasn't worth continuing it.
No, I don't. Part of my problem as a person, I think, is I am unable to engage with these kinds of people, and there's lots of people who are like this, where they sort of get overly dramatic about these people who aren't real. They're just sort of imaginary in our lives. Like maybe I'm the dysfunctional one. I don't know. Sabu is not real to me. He's not a real person in my world. You see him on TV or you see him at a con, he's in and out of your life for 30 seconds and that's it. Even like our interactions with Hack, or, it's a great example of like, do you see Hack as a person, or he's just this thing that, because he was such a fascinating like entity, you know what I'm saying? Am I articulating it properly?
I mean, he's sort of like a cartoon character that just sort of like ripped his way through the TV like Freddy Krueger style. And just entered our life and left our life with absolutely just as little fanfare.
Like it could have been an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm if someone was filming me trying to like guide Hack around that gym at a big event while he's hobbling around trying to get near Rhea Ripley, and I was almost like Jim from The Office where I like wanted to look at the camera. Like what is my life right now that I'm trying to like steer him through, and as he's like you ever watched Hack walk? He has the cane and he uses it as a walking stick.
That was my cane. I was very concerned he'd lose it.
The whole thing was preposterous. So anyway, these guys when these guys they get overly emotional and genuinely emotional about the death of a modestly famous person with whom they've had modest interaction, it's just sort of I mean, I guess in theory it's sad they died, but look, everybody dies. I don't know if I'm taking an inhuman look at it, but everyone dies. That's sort of part of the mystery of our existence. And so to get overly sentimental about it when a stranger dies is strange to me. But I don't know. I see so many people who do, and it's funny. And actually, I put do you see what I added to the sheet?
I do.
Do you want to get into it now or after?
Right now, let's do it.
Yeah. So another story just popped. Was it yesterday or the day before? That's similar to this.
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday. I am, for what it's worth, I am currently nowhere near home. I'm recording from Salt Lake City, Utah, where I'm going to be for a little while. So hopefully this episode sounds good, because the next one's going to sound like this too. So in any case, yeah. So anyway, I'm a little bit disconnected from the world. I'm disconnected from our little universe. So I caught on the I think I found out today that actor. I'm hard pressed calling him an actor. I guess stuntman is a better word for what he did. Ed Gale died yesterday. He was the stuntman who did the live action scenes, like Chucky the doll, when Chucky had to crawl under the table and stuff like that, where you couldn't use a puppet. Like a puppet was used for the majority of the movie, and like there were certain little scenes where a puppet couldn't do those complex movements, and so they had to hire Ed Gale to do it. He was Howard the Duck also, right?
Yes.
And it's such Howard the Duck is one of those things. It was a cult classic comic book. It wasn't like a popular per se. It was sort of a cult classic that was then turned into a movie that is like notoriously bad. It's an infamously bad movie. And I remember as a little kid, I watched Howard the Duck, and I remember there was a pair of like naked duck boobs at the beginning of the movie. Did you see it?
If I did, I probably forced that out of my memory for like a defense mechanism. But
I remember I was a little kid, like 7 or 8 years old, and I remember like these naked duck boobs around. I was like, what is this? And that is the entirety of my memory of Howard the Duck, was watching it as a little kid and seeing naked duck boobs. That's, by the way, the third time I said naked duck boobs on this show. So in any case,
the record.
Yeah, I doubt will ever be broken.
Hopefully not.
So in any case, Ed Gale died. And so when anyone dies who is, modestly of, repute of any kind, the people come out of the woodwork to post the autographs of him and the photo ops with him and this and that. And something that's interesting is in 2023, Ed Gale was part of one of those stings where like people pose as teenagers or kids and try to like sext people on the internet and like schedule meetups with them and stuff, and for sexual purposes. And then like when the sting goes to the person's house and it's an adult, they try and like berate them and interrogate them and call the cops on them and stuff like that. This is like a thing. It was popular years ago. It kind of fell out of it fell out of favor when a few years back. I don't know if you know this, it's a pretty famous story. There was a guy, I want to say he was a government official. He might have been a prosecutor actually, who was confronted in this way, and he retreated to another room in his house and killed himself. Did you hear about that story?
I did.
But that kind of ended these stings on a national level, because it was it created a whole stir. In any case, Ed Gale was the subject of one of these stings in 2023, and he was under investigation by the LAPD. He was never arrested. No charges were ever filed against him. And he later admitted that he had tried to, he had solicited sex from what he thought was a 14-year-old boy, but who was actually like a grown man. And so anyway, so you had this thing happen, which always happens in our little corner of the universe, where the people posted their autographs and the R.I.P. Ed Gale, and they posted the photo ops, R.I.P. Ed Gale. And by the way, photo ops with Ed Gale, that's a whole other level of, I don't even know how much I should say out loud. It won't come out good no matter how I say it. But then underneath all of these posts were just post after post after post of like performative carrying on about how it's not right to celebrate this pedophile, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, what are your, when you see something like this happen, where, you know, someone dies and then the rush to post the stuff about them, you know, comes out, and then there's all this kind of theatrical, performative posts about it. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm often guilty of being one of the people posting or sharing the photo op or something like that for someone's death. That's something I do. It's something I really can't defend. I mean, it's obvious to some level, gloating and, like, you know, showing that you checked this person off your list, which just sounds like you're a serial killer. Which I've made that comparison before. I'm always well aware of it. And so I can't really knock that. There's for me, there's always like a certain level of like fandom where, like, there's some people that die that I can't be bothered to. I'm going to share like something so insignificant to me. It's just like I just can't be bothered. So that level, I don't really like begrudge anyone, even though I think it's really stupid. I'd be a hypocrite to begrudge it because I am guilty of it. But the theatrical, like, self-righteousness, and I'm not saying that in any way to downplay the allegations. Like, the allegations are absolutely disgusting, if true. And I understand people being, like, upset about it, but it's like, you know, this person posting this photo op, I mean, they probably liked him, I guess, because he was the puppet's stunt double, or the puppet was stunt double. I don't even know how to really, the chicken or the egg, I don't know which came first. But I mean, it's not like you're posting this stuff to celebrate the man. I mean, he was a crazy little guy that ran around in the Chucky suit for a few seconds and was the duck. I mean, no one is really celebrating his accomplishments. It's just a stupid way of showing off that you met the person.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, first of all, I don't, you know, I always joke with you that I don't get photo ops with voice actors, and I'm kind of the same with stunt doubles in that, you know, or stuntmen in general. But it's just such a, I don't think there's really any artistry in it. I would never in a million years think that Ed Gale is a celebrity, nor do I think he's even an artist in any way. I think he's just a guy who was called upon to perform a task. I think he was needed for that task. I'm not, you know, downplaying that task. It just, I would have like zero interest in meeting Ed Gale prior to any allegations or death or whatever. It would never. That's just something that has any appeal to me. That said, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going off what you said about stunt doubles. You've never you have photos though with like Nick Castle and Kane Hodder, right?
I have photo ops with Nick Castle, and my photo op with Kane Hodder was free when I got the autograph. So I am pretty. You should know this. I'm pretty strict with that rule. The only reason I paid for the photo op with John Carpenter as the director was because I had no choice. It was either spend it or lose it, because of the damn time changes in Philly.
Yeah.
I don't pay for these things, you know, ever, as a rule. I refuse to pay for Tom Kenny photo op. We got the free one in the hotel room. And actually, I got the free one when I did when I got him at the table at New York Comic Con in 2021 or whatever it was. You know,
so these allegations have had no reason with you not wanting Ed Gale. It was just his accomplishments.
No, but what kills me is, and again, this is going to probably something that people are going to disagree with or have strong feelings about. I don't know. If you took a look at Ed Gale when he was in 2023, when he was clearly on his way out from the earth, I mean, you get oxygen tanks and all that. No one was having sex with Ed Gale. Like, I mean, come on, let's be very clear. It wasn't happening. Like the premise that it was ever credible for a moment that someone was coming to his apartment to have sex with him, you can just reject it out of hand. You take one look at the guy; he can barely move. This is. I know I can't believe I'm saying this, but you just it's so absurd, and like it's a sad, lonely creep doing sad, lonely, creepy things, and like that's what it is. And yes, there is a certain amount of like grotesquerie around that, and I guess like no one needs you, and I don't mean you, Dana. I mean you, like the people out there. No one needs you to like righteously condemn this like sad, disabled little person creeping on young boys on the internet. Like that level of self-righteousness does not put you in some position of moral authority. It just makes you look strange by carrying on about this guy on the internet. And it's such a like I saw this one vendor I saw who was like, cracked me up. It was like we burned all of our Ed Gale autographs from our inventory after he was accused. I was cracking up. It's like, first of all, you're debasing yourself in the first place by doing signings with Ed Gale of all people, for Christ's sake. I mean, again, the guy had no discernible value. His stuff wasn't worth anything. Because if you want to think about like you were joking about like Mason Reese, these guys with no value, like you talk about scraping the bottom of the barrel of the hobby. Ed Gale was the bottom of the barrel. Truthfully, before the allegations, there was no one was like, oh my god, I am so pumped to go to this con for Ed Gale. He wasn't he wasn't even like a character actor. Like I was talking about when we were talking about that Sopranos con, and I was joking that I was really excited. I would have liked to have seen Fiore, who the guy. I'm mid rewatch on the Sopranos now. He was the one who died on the toilet.
Yeah.
Of the heart attack, but I like Profaci from Law and Order. These like small character actors, like at least those, like you can have fond memories of them or whatever. Like any fond memories you have of Chucky are of Brad Dourif doing the voice, not Ed Gale crawling under a table for a half a second of screen time. It's so ludicrous that people have these kind of twisted investments in these famous adjacent people. Anyway, I just thought it was really funny that there were so many performative posts, like one after the next. How dare you post this? He was a pervert. And it's just like, okay, thank you for letting us know that you are the 50th person to comment this. Thank you so much. Move along. And it's like, I don't know. I stand in judgment of anyone who paid for a photo op with Ed Gale before the accusation. These photo ops, they look insane. They're totally undesirable. He's a stranger. No one knows. The whole thing is totally nuts. I don't know. Maybe I sound insensitive. I don't really know. But
the whole thing makes me laugh because, I mean, talk about performative. Like, let's say you are a vendor who plunged, thousands of dollars into Ed Gale.
I'll probably say hundreds, but okay.
Imagine, though, that you are so disgusted by these accusations, which, I mean, I can understand why you would be. And you say, I can't simply put them in a garbage bag and put them on my curb in fear of what a dumpster diver finds them and does what with them. I don't even know. You can't let these get into the hands of the public. So you must burn them like that. Like, it's just insane.
But even like performatively removing them from sale, like I don't know. There's something about it that I find so silly. It's all so silly. Collecting Ed Gale was dumb before he was accused. It's dumb now. Now that he's dead, it's dumb. It's always dumb. It's no more dumb because he texted a not real 14-year-old boy in 2023. It's the equal levels of dumb. If you're a fan of Ed Gale, you're dumb. There's no other way to say it. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. He didn't do anything.
First the pawn shop industry, now the Ed Gale fan community.
I just don't. Really... I find myself though because I'm part of these groups and I think ostensibly I can relate to these people. I have the same likes as they do. I watch them and their behavior and I shake my head and I don't understand how they arrive at the same conclusions how are they arriving at the conclusions about the world that they arrive at? Because it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I have 2 points I want to just leave our listeners with. First point being, of your with your Ed Gale molestation defense.
Wait, stop! I didn't defend it. I'm just saying that those people who are performatively outraged.
No, I understand. No.
So
I'm
ridiculous.
saying when you were pointing out that he wasn't physically capable of doing any of this, that's my point. You were defending the lack of ability for him to do any of this. What would be if the glove doesn't fit equivalent of that? You got to come up with one.
Oh, that's really putting me on the spot. But it's if you just see like it just strains like people. Like, oh, you know, he's a child molester. I would be willing to bet money that he could have tried his absolute damnedest to molest the child, and it wasn't happening physically. And so, like, the whole thing is just. Just give it a rest.
And then my other point that I would like you and our listeners to sort of ponder your point always about how, you know, who is the oddball? It's you being different from all these freaks, or the freaks being different from you. It's all I keep picturing is you as Marilyn on the Munsters, and I think they actually chewed on that topic before. Where is she the weirdo, or are they the weirdo? And,
Look,
and it really begs the question.
The Munsters is brilliant. It's an absolutely brilliant concept, because that's the point, right?
Yes.
Is that the audience is in on the joke the whole time. Like, we are sort of celebrating. I feel like actually some of our media is we've kind of lost that ability to be playful in the way that the Munsters was. What a brilliant show with brilliant performers. Anyway, we got lost there. No, I know. And I feel like, you know, part of the joke is that Marilyn doesn't understand what the hell is going on. Right. And maybe that's me now. I'm like, and here I am. And now it sounds like I'm defending Ed Gale, and I'm really not. Like, it is what it is. The point is that these mutants feel the need to, like, one after the next carry on about how awful he was. And it's like, who are you exactly trying to prove something to? Are you trying to prove it? Are you the knight in shining armor defending the non-existent 14-year-old boy from the dead, disabled Ed Gale? Like, what the hell? So anyway, yeah, maybe I am Marilyn Munster. I feel like it a lot of times at these shows, and then other times I feel like I'm with the pack. Because let me tell you, when I was the guy who finally got the Beckett witness to come over to the John C., all the people around me were like shocked that was a thing, and then it was like you saw the guys following behind me getting their stuff done too. Like I was fully in it. I was like a Pied Piper of the community, and I was at that point I was Grandpa Munster at that point himself, and so I was my Grandpa Al Lewis. And so, yeah, I don't know. This whole, honestly, since the beginning of this year, I've kind of been going through this existential crisis regarding the hobby, where and honestly, the discussions about like the fake stuff over the past few weeks has only exacerbated those feelings, because like I just cannot relate to, you know, these people who in many ways I like them. I'm fond of them. You know, I like the same things that they do, but at the same time, like, their worldview is just, I just can't get over how they even arrived at it. And this is one of those cases, like, you know, carrying on onto the, and you can see it's like some still, like the photo op, it was some like goofy looking kid. I say kid, he's probably 30, but this goofy looking kid posing next to, you know, Ed Gale with the oxygen tubes coming out of his face, you know, like, you know, just bragging about the fact that he met this guy who is now dead. And it's just this stream of comment underneath about celebrating a child molester. It's like, Jesus Christ. I don't know.
Oxygen with the oxygen tube, you can't get the lube.
That's terrible. That's terrible. Like, that's not, I am laughing only at the horribleness of it. Anyway.
Yes, on that note.
There were some great reports this week and some funny stuff that happened. Vinny just posted to Marked Out that he did he did some event where Marty Scorsese was speaking. And he tried to get Marty, but I guess it was raining or something happened, and Marty didn't. He didn't stop, but his guy collected items and brought them, and so he got some. I think he got 1 or 2 things signed.
He got an 8x10. I have it open right here. He got an 8x10 done. Which, I mean, Marty hit the silver on the black of the jacket. Which
it looked great. It looked great. The shot looks great.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome.
And more impressively, I think, not in terms of rarity, but in terms of the quality of what he got, he also got a sick photo op with Jeff Goldblum. I mean, as good as it gets, right?
Yeah. I mean, unless there was a velociraptor in the shot, that's the only way it could get any better.
And then he got 2 graphs out of Jeff Goldblum. What was interesting was Jeff Goldblum is notorious for giving absolute slop on the streets. He basically gives you 2 loops, and that's it. I saw like actual letters in the autographs Vinny got. So I even posted. I was like, damn, those look fantastic. Way above what Jeff typically gives on the street.
Which again goes to show, like for example, if it wasn't Vinny posting this and you just saw it on eBay or something, you would say like, "Holy cow, that's not real." And there's a lot of variation. And he got a real great one, 100% authentic. And it just, that's the thing you always got to keep in mind when you're looking at these autographs, that there are situations, environments, interactions that sort of let the guard down. I assume Vinny was, made a good impression on Jeff. And Jeff took care of him.
He dressed up real nice. That's a key piece of this, I think, though. Like, if you look like a human being and not a complete degenerate slob, people will treat you like a human being. That's how we suspect. That's that one grapher on Rack who's extremely successful. And we've hypothesized it's because he looks like a normal guy and not like a complete sweat hog. And so, Vinny dressed up, looked presentable, and then as a result got taken care of. Honestly, one of the better reports I think we'll see it for the year, I think, truthfully. I have a weird report. This is the first time in a while that I have a report and you don't, but it's not anything that I did. I actually broke one of my rules, and I did a couple of consignments this week.
Wow.
I know. I have a particular negative sentiment. We haven't really talked about this a lot. We talked about when we first started the show about our general distaste for the consignment industry, whatever you call it. I don't know, the whole corner of the hobby where it's this race to the bottom with these guys who are just nitwits. We talked about it a little bit, but anyway, I had this piece. It's a Supernatural Funko that was signed by Sam and Crowley, and it didn't have Dean on it. And I don't know if you're into the Supernatural world, but Supernatural is still a Creation property, and Jensen Ackles, who played Dean, is still exclusive with Creation in the US. And I am not going to Creation show. I'm not paying. It's very expensive to get in, and it's a whole ordeal to try and get autographs at the Creation shows. And I found a consigner who had already paid the outrageous fee, and I guess he was using some consignments to offset his costs of getting in. And so I had this really, 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 really expensive piece that I needed done. And one of the things that gave me anxiety about it was both Sam and Crowley had given me quotes, not big ones, little ones, but still they'd given me quotes on the piece. And I was like, if you know Jensen Ackles, for some reason, even in paid autograph settings, just ruins items. He doesn't sign in the right spot with the right pen. He's just very sloppy. He's very fast, doesn't give quotes or character name. He's just, I don't really know what. A handful, I guess. I never met him, and I honestly, at this rate, probably won't, at least for another decade, until maybe he gets out of this contract. But I decided to take a chance, and I sent my 3-pack Funko Pops off with a guy. I saw a consigner on one of the big consignment groups. Took a risk. That item is worth north of $1,000. But it's one of those situations where it was annoying me that it wasn't complete. And it was sitting in a box. And so now it's sitting in a box complete with Jensen Ackles' autograph. Now
How did it come out? It came out good?
Well, you may ask me the question: did it include the quote that I had requested and stickered and stuff?
Did it
It was
include this?
it was a one-word quote that I asked for.
So what happened? Did you get it?
No, it's Jensen Ackles. I've seen like one item online where he gave a one-word quote. I asked them to inscribe the word "bitch" because there was a really funny interaction where between you watched the whole run of Supernatural, right?
I think I never saw that last season.
Well,
Beyond that, yeah.
where Dean and Sam were yelling "bitch" and "jerk" at each other back and forth, and so
Yep.
Sam had written "jerk," and I wanted Dean to write "bitch," so it goes back and forth, and he didn't do it. So, am I making a big deal about it? No. Am I getting upset about it? No, I can't because it's Jensen, and I'm not. If he does a con one day, maybe I'll figure out a way to make that happen. But he doesn't. He doesn't even do private signings or mail-ins. It's impossible to really get Jensen. I'm just happy he didn't wreck my item. And he didn't. He signed exactly where I was nervous. I was going to tape it off, but I've seen instances online where people tape it off and he signs over the tape.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do that, and I didn't. And he did sign it exactly where it was requested, which is honestly, that's 85% of it. The other thing, am I in love with it? No. But do I really care that much? No. It's done. The item is where it belongs now in a box, never to be seen again.
It's like one of those early episodes of Supernatural, basically, where you just like throw the ashes into some shallow grave somewhere, and that's the end of it. But I gotta say, I think you're missing out. I think you really should go to a creation show, and you could sing "Carry On, Wayward Son" at the like live karaoke party, and I think you're missing out.
The only creation show I ever went to was the one where they had Leonard Nimoy at Star Trek Con in New Jersey. It wasn't too long before he passed, and I wanted just to go for the photo op with Leonard Nimoy, and I do have that. So I also have the 2 Klingons in full costume, which is insane as well, truthfully. So that was one that I was so glad that I did it. But I mean, that experience taught me to never do a Creation Con again. Although their photo op process was very efficient. But
I mean, short of the printing portion, which takes all day. But
yeah,
beyond that, yeah.
So I also did another. I was feeling the consignment bug. I was bitten by it, and
you were frisky.
Yeah, well, because Mr. T himself is doing Dallas Fan Expo as we speak. Actually, he's down in Dallas now. Have you seen reports as to whether he's confirmed present yet?
I haven't been on Facebook a ton today, so I didn't. But I didn't have my phone blowing up with despair from people I know that are down there. So I'm assuming no news on my end is good news.
So anyway, a while back, I had bought an original WrestleMania 1 poster from Auction Andrew that had a beautiful autograph by Hulk Hogan with a great inscription. Huge Hulk signed huge. Hulk's signature is bigger than Ed Gale on that poster, and the Mr. T side of the poster is awful lonely looking, and I knew there's 2 factors. I originally was going to send it with a consigner to Dallas because a few people we know are going to Dallas, but I read that Mr. T wasn't doing inscriptions at the show. You could only get an inscription from Mr. T if you did an official mail-in through Official Picks. And so I went ahead and I did that. And so it cost a lot of money, dude. A lot.
How much?
It's over $6. Yeah. So I found a really funny quote from Mr. T that he said right after the WrestleMania 1 main event at the little interview with Mean Gene, that I had him. I paid a lot of money. Hopefully he does it. I sent it in. I used Twin Cities Comics, who is partnering with Official Picks. I've used Twin Cities Comics a few times in the past. They're an outstanding place that does private signings and whatnot. But yeah, so I mailed in my WrestleMania 1 poster. I was a little bit nervous about. I actually double tubed it, so I was nervous about it getting wrecked in a tube. So I put it in a tube and then put that in a tube, like a true nut. So damn, this mountain air and making me yawn. So yeah, I sent that off to Minnesota, And I guess those guys took it down to Dallas, and hopefully it gets done real nice this weekend. And Twin Cities ships stuff back very quickly. So I imagine within the next week and a half or so, I will have my poster, and I give an update as to what it looks like.
The poster might beat you back to New York.
It very well might, to be honest. I mean, we'll see. I hope kind of does. Just logistically speaking, I hope I beat the poster back. To be honest, I want to be there when it comes in the mail. It'll save me some stress.
So what's your worst case scenario here? What's your worst fear? That he signs microscopically small?
Yes,
or
that's my big. When you see how big Hulk signed,
yeah.
And I put a piece of tape on the poster and wrote, "Please sign as big as possible to match Hulk," is what I wrote. Now, will he see that or pay attention to it, or will someone like when I sent my WrestleMania 14 jacket to have Stone Cold sign it? I know those guys were reading the notes, and because those guys are awesome. Sean Jacoby, right? Those guys, they're awesome at what they do. So I was not worried at all, and of course, it looked amazing when he did it. Ultimately, when Official Picks is running it, I don't know. I had great experiences with Official Picks in the past, but the guy who used to be the guy in charge, or one of the main guys in charge of Official Picks, doesn't work there anymore. He opened up a different company, Everest, and so I haven't used Official Picks since then. And even though Twin Cities is there and I trust them, I do have a little bit of anxiety. Number one, that it won't be big, and number two, that my quote will get screwed up. This poster's worth probably $1,000, and so I hope that it doesn't get screwed up. But the problem was, this was the only chance. It was this or nothing. This me being in Salt Lake City was planned for longer, since before Mr. T was even announced at Dallas, and so there was no option. And I actually did consider the possibility of, as nutty as this sounds, I believe we discussed this when Mr. T was announced. I considered the possibility of zipping over to Dallas for a day and coming back to Salt Lake, and it was actually not possible with my work schedule. So, long story short, everyone crossed their fingers that my Mr. T gets done properly this weekend.
Yes, or else strongly worded letters.
I mean, what could you do? An item like that is one of a kind.
Yeah.
How many original WrestleMania 1 posters are floating around out there signed in such fantastic condition? There's just not that many out there.
I'd say probably less than 50 in the entire world, honestly.
Yeah, it's such a funny thing. Here I am. I spent the whole episode trying to convince myself and others that I'm normal or whatever, and it's hard for me to explain the tickle that I get from knowing that I have an item that other people just don't have. And I can't explain why I care about it. I shouldn't care about it. But yet, I mean, one of my most prized possessions is my 2-pack figures of Kensuke Sasaki and Akira Hokuto, signed by both. And to most people, you wouldn't care about that item. Would you, if I said, give me $100 for that, you wouldn't even give me $100 for it. And yet, knowing that I probably have the only dual signed one in the world is very tickling. It's very I can't explain it really why, but it's exciting for me. So I'm excited to have this poster that looks it looks so good now, and hopefully T just goes crazy. I also asked, because I was being a little bit crazy, I asked because Hulk signed it in gold metallic deco, not silver, and so I asked them to do gold. Part of me was thinking I should have sent my pen, but I didn't. So, hey, you know what? Gold metallic paint pen was an option. So if they sign it in gold Sharpie, someone's going to die. It'll probably be me. I'll just see it and just die. But yeah, anyway.
Listen, you're sounding a little grandpa monstrous right now. But I mean, I certainly hope it works out.
Nah, I have confidence. And honestly, Twin Cities Comics is so good. I got a bunch of stuff done through private signings with them. They had run one a few years back. They were running a lot, like 2021, like that. I got a lot of Game of Thrones stuff. They had Emilia Clarke. They had Kit Harington. They had oh my god, Tyrion Lannister. What's his name?
Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage has the worst autograph I've ever seen, by the way. Looks terrible. but I got him to sign a sick quote on mine. So this dude offered me $1,000 for my Peter Dinklage with the quote, and I refused to sell it yet.
Wow.
Right now, yeah, I mean, if he offered me $2,000, maybe, and I'm not selling it. Not yet, anyway. I'll wait until the end of my collection, not the beginning. So I, while I was on break, this was yesterday also. Was it yesterday or the day before with the Joe Jonas thing?
It was, I think yesterday. Honestly, these days all blend together, but I think yesterday.
So we mentioned it previously. Joe Jonas was doing an appearance at Looney Tunes in West Babylon. He did that appearance, as they do. Looney Tunes, the way, which I actually kind of appreciate, when they do their photo ops in store, they just take them all and post them all on Facebook, so that you get to see everyone else's photo ops. It's not like there are these private links where you only see your own. They're all posted publicly, and so I noticed a pattern and in the Joe Jonas photo ops, and after I saw one and then the next and the next, I was like howling with laughter. I started sending you like nice exemplars of all these. Of all these photo ops, and can you describe what Joe Jonas is doing in these photo ops?
Well, yes, I absolutely can. He was conducting a certain hover hand in absolutely every photo. I don't think his palm came in contact with a single
square inch of flesh
skin or anything. Yes. Honestly, the only thing that there was less of than him touching flesh were teenage girls. So I was completely wrong.
Yes, I was definitely right on that one. It was all women my age or within the last 10 years of
it was all in their 30s and
40s. Yeah.
It was all grizzled women between my age and your age.
Yeah.
That did not even get a shoulder blade caressed by Jonas.
Not even a little. And look, I understand from his perspective, you're a Jonas brother. That you are the object of the Jonas Brothers. I mean, there was a South Park episode about this, right? Where the Jonas Brothers were, presented as like the sexual objectification for young girls. That was the whole premise of these, these pop stars, right? The little girls would have crushes on them and whatever. There's a really funny South Park episode about that, but I digress. And so, I imagine there are lots of unhealthy parasocial relationships out there about, the Jonas Brothers. I imagine, I don't think Joe Jonas is the most popular Jonas brother, but I'm not saying that with any degree of certainty. He might be, I don't know. But anyway, I understand why he would take the precaution and not want to touch any of these women. But it's just funny to see because you can see his hand. It's so conspicuous in every photo. Like he could have hid it behind them so it wasn't visible, but it's only visible. I would say it's visible in like 70% of the photos that he's not touching them. And
he was almost doing a jazz hand with his hover hand.
Yes,
he was flaunting it.
Yes, and the only pictures where it's not visible is where the subject of the photo is so large that there's no way his hand will be visible because the whole frame is taken up. So it's one of those things that you just look at it and you go, oh boy. I can't imagine. I wonder how many of these women realized in real time what was happening. He wasn't actually touching them, or how many of them only realized it after the fact.
I'm going to be very mean here, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think the majority of those women at this signing are not used to men touching them to begin with. So, I think it just sort of went right over their heads. And they probably didn't realize it even looking at the photo. But it definitely happened. Or in this case, didn't happen.
Yeah. So, he was mostly smiling. And it seemed everyone seemed to have had a good time. And I know that, Looney Tunes was selling leftover. They had extra vinyls and CDs signed. So they were selling the signed vinyls for full retail, $49.99. And it's interesting because it's one of those things where I don't think there's any resale value in that.
We went through this before with this store and how they operate it. When you pay $50 in tax and shipping and all this other stuff, and then you sell it and take the fees off, and you would need him to die in a hang gliding accident or something while holding the corpse of Ed Gale.
And hopefully not have some kind of accusation. I think the Jonas Brothers are pretty squeaky clean, though. I've never heard a single accusation about them, but to be fair, I haven't looked.
Yeah, I don't think they were actually at any Diddy parties or anything like that, so they should be fine.
So, anyhow, that's Joe Jonas. There's con news going on. You noticed, I didn't see. Not a ton, but a little bit.
No, yeah, not a ton. This week, which this is something I absolutely never would have predicted. They kind of at Rhode Island Comic-Con, which I like when they do this. They segued Jason Lee, of Mallrats fame, was also sort of at the centerpiece of a second reunion. He is a part of 2 reunions at Rhode Island Comic-Con. You have Mallrats, and they also did a My Name is Earl reunion, which is actually ingenious because Ethan Suplee, who was his brother in My Name is Earl, and yes, I definitely butchered the pronunciation of that name. So someone please make fun of me for it. But he's also in Mallrats. So they had 2 people from the Mallrats reunion. They slid them over for a My Name is Earl reunion. And you have Jamie Presley, who you have like no knowledge of her, right?
Maybe if I saw her face, I didn't really look.
Yeah.
Interestingly, do you have Ethan or no?
I do.
You're from Monster Mania, right?
No, from Rhode Island. I got them both on that Mallrats poster, and then I just like never did anything with it again, as we talked about last week.
I got the photo with Ethan because he was in. Did you ever watch the show back in the day, Parker Lewis Can't Lose?
No.
That was a great show. Great show. I need to go pirate that because I don't have it on my computer, but it was a great show. They also
added Eddie Steeples, who was in My Name is Earl. And honestly, I've never seen this guy's name at any convention. I'm sure he did something somewhere, but I was not a huge fan of My Name is Earl, but it's such like a weird and complete reunion. I'd be lying if I wasn't tempted to get the group up, which is just mental. I would want Presley, but she's like the only one I would need, and it's $234. So I got to decide now, do I do the group up or do I get her or do I just do none of the above and just skip it all together? Who knows?
I mean, you'll probably do the whole thing. No?
Probably. It's one of those reunions that you're not going to see at every con.
I looked up Jamie Presley just now. She was in Can't Hardly Wait. I recognize her. She was really funny in Can't Hardly Wait. She was like
she's really funny in Mom. She's honestly one of those people that just sort of steals a lot of scenes that they're in.
One of these cons needs to do a Can't Hardly Wait reunion. Because what's his face? What the hell is that guy's name? Ethan Embry. He used to do cons and he kind of stopped, but he used to. But you got Ethan Embry's in that. Seth Green is in that. Peter Facinelli is in that. The only star of that movie who doesn't do cons is Jennifer Love Hewitt, who absolutely should be doing cons.
She's built for cons. That's literally what like her main profession should be at this point.
So, yeah, maybe one day we'll get a I'm a fan of Can't Hardly Wait. Just because it hit at the right time when I was the right age and it's just memorable for me. But
that's the kind of movie that missed me by a couple of years. I was 11 when that came out, and when I was 11, I was still focused on like Jurassic Park and whatever the hell else stupid things I was watching. Well, not stupid things, but I wasn't watching the like high school dramas and comedies and stuff at 11.
Yeah, that's funny because that was the era of the high school comedy. Like from 96 to 02. Or 03 was like boom, 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 one after the next of these just, pretty memorable high school comedies. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, honestly, knowing that, I wish I had a Can't Hardly Wait project because I don't. Also, they need to bring back Ethan Embry to cons. He did that one Monster Mania and did a couple other shows, and I haven't seen him in a while because he was on Grace and Frankie's project. Yeah, my issue. I mean, Peter Facinelli. I've seen him at multiple cons now. And Seth Green is always around. So, Lauren Ambrose doesn't do cons either. She'd be a good name for cons, right?
Yeah.
So come on, get on this, Lauren Ambrose. What are you doing? But she's like a serious actor and all that stuff. Who needs all that? Anyway, and then the other con news. We were kind of taken aback by a surprise email from Fanatics Fest today. They were adding even more guests. So they added Randy Orton on Saturday and Bianca Belair on Sunday. So I did you see that coming at all?
I didn't. And honestly, thank God I have Randy Orton, because that would be a name that I would be buying a Saturday ticket and I'd be locked in for all three, because he's big enough. If I needed him, I'd be there. And
I did not buy one today because I don't want to go on Saturday. And I've made the executive decision to not go on Saturday. And yeah, so I didn't buy it.
Apparently they also added Braun Breaker, but he's only doing a panel, which is a bit bizarre. But I'm also slightly nervous that they're going to change that all of a sudden and add him for photo ops. Because, like, why wouldn't he do photo ops? It doesn't really make any sense. But
I don't know. I don't know at all. So, if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com or our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles.com or join the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. All links are in the show notes on Facebook and Substack. And if you want your event, product, or brand advertised on episodes of Marked Out Radio, reach out to us today at markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com. Also, please subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast and leave a rating and or review. You can leave a rating or review or both on Apple Podcast, or you can leave a rating on Spotify, or you can leave a comment, thumbs up or thumbs down on YouTube, and we actively encourage all engagement. So let's get to the main topic. It was actually a topic that we had slated for last week, and there was just so much to talk about last week that we completely ran out of time, which was the handling of ADA accommodations at Fan Expo Philly. And, you know, I think it's an important topic to revisit, because we spent early episodes of the show discussing ADA accommodations at length.
yeah, this was one of our founding topics, honestly.
And it's really interesting for me because I think the concept of what ADA accommodations means and how people interpret what the rights that they have as, you know, potentially disabled people are versus what the law compels some of these organizations to provide is often very different. And I think a lot of people were spoiled and have been spoiled by what cons like New York Comic Con do and have done and continue to do, and they assume that all cons are required to do that when the requirements are actually a little bit more complicated. So I guess one of the concerns that people had about ADA accommodations at Fan Expo was that they really were not allowing line skips for autographs at all.
Yeah, I think honestly that's one of the facets of this whole ADA thing that just is like synonymous. You equate line jumps with ADA. And as we've discussed, there's abuse of that by people that are not disabled in any way, shape, or form, aside from just being like allergic to waiting in lines. And that's not, I'm not throwing it, I understand that feeling. And we've talked about the whole idea that when you see everyone abusing it, and then you are the idiot that's waiting in line like an honest schmuck, that then you feel like, I get that. I'm not really throwing any shade at anyone for doing that. But yeah, Philly Fan Expo did not do it the NYCC RICC way. If you were ADA, you were not cutting lines. And I did see some people that were a little taken aback by that.
What's funny is, these people, they misunderstand what the Americans with Disabilities Act is about. It's a very important law, and I don't want to get too much into politics here. And we actually discussed this at length months ago. But the Americans with Disabilities Act requires that basically venues operating in public spaces make reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities. That's the operative expression, reasonable accommodations. And the reasonableness of accommodations is determined by the organization making those accommodations. It's not like there's there's a recognized governing body determining what is a reasonable accommodation and what is not. It's complicated. Now you can challenge with the reasonableness of an accommodation, but the venue to do that is with a lawsuit. And in order to sue, you have to assert that you were damaged, that you sustained some kind of damages as a result of they're not providing you with accommodations. And unfortunately, while waiting in line for an autograph from a celebrity or a quasi-celebrity might be annoying, there is no way to articulate that someone sustained financial damages from that, unless like they were forced to stand in line in unsafe conditions and then they fell and, cracked their skull or something like that. Then you could make some case that they should have been accommodated, in an alternate location. But like, for example, if for example, let's say your disability is that you get too hot and dizzy when you're surrounded by large groups of people. A reasonable accommodation could be providing you with a seat nearby where you don't have large groups of people. Right? That would be a reasonable accommodation. Or let's just say you're in a wheelchair and you have limited mobility. A reasonable accommodation could be there's an alternate waiting area for people in wheelchairs. Not that you get to jump the line necessarily, but that there's all kinds of understandings as to what a reasonable accommodation could be. And there's a lot of interpretations as to what a reasonable accommodation could be. And unfortunately, the people needing such accommodations are not always in agreement as to the reasonableness of those accommodations. And so it is an interesting thing from our perspective, because do you think other shows are going to follow suit? We've already seen Steel City no longer does line skipping for ADA. Fan Expo is now no longer doing line skipping for ADA. Do you see RICC and Fanatics and NYCC going down this path as well?
I think it's certainly possible, because as things become exploited and loopholes just breached, it becomes a situation where your accommodations aren't very accommodating if you have people that don't need accommodations that are just skipping the line in that way. But then it becomes a situation where you're actually giving the people that genuinely need some level of assistance less assistance, which is sort of counterproductive and counterintuitive to the climate and the culture we're in, where we're all about trying to be more inclusive, and then this would be less inclusivity. I think it's definitely possible that you're going to see more of this, because you can't just keep letting it be exploited with zero response.
I also think one of the issues is simply letting these people cut in line is not even necessarily in and of itself a reasonable accommodation, right? Like, it is, for someone in a wheelchair, for example, it is more important that they have ramps instead of stairs, or elevators instead of stairs, and wide enough lanes to wheel their chair through, than it is to have them be able to not wait in line. You know what I'm saying? Like, someone in a wheelchair needs to be granted access via, the method of mobility that they're using. That's the accommodation. Simply getting through a line is not an accommodation for that disability. Like, if someone who is blind, right? Someone who is blind can stand in line. Someone who is blind needs to perhaps have access to Braille instructions, or perhaps there's a variety of things that would be accommodations for someone who is blind. You know what I'm saying? It's not about, I think people used this line skip thing, or this sort of VIP access, or whatever you want to call it, as a catch-all for, people in need of assistance with their disabilities. And a lot of it wasn't even actually providing assistance for these people. I'll use a good example. When you're in the autograph room for New York Comic-Con, right? If you're in a wheelchair trying to navigate that space where it's so densely crowded, you're not doing it well. It's actually unsafe for you. And I've seen people on crutches or in wheelchairs. It looked unsafe because there were crowds of people around them. That issue is in no way ameliorated by skipping a VIP line as opposed to being in a regular line. Once they're in a line, they're safe. They're fine. It's the navigating the winding corridors and the crush of bodies. That's the issue. So I think the issue was that the cons kind of threw people a bone with the ADA accommodations without really addressing the core issue, which is that the just giving everyone the equivalent of a VIP pass wasn't actually addressing the core issue.
All I would say to that, and you're right, I agree with you, but I think it's I think there's 2 points to that. I think initially that there are people where, standing in a line is problematic, and that would actually be a helpful accommodation for some. And they don't really, with the ADA passes and all that, there's not really any sort of this, by law, you don't have to actually disclose what your disability is. So you kind of have to make it a catch-all, or else you can't. Like to leave that part of it out. Like, I think there probably were people in Philly that were unable to get autographs because their situation was not really addressed without having that ability to get through it quicker. On the other hand, as a catch-all, which we discussed months ago, for these conventions, getting the disabled out of the way quicker makes life easier for them, which that sounds awful to say, but having people with disabilities, they're more high maintenance. You got to make sure they're taken care of. It slows the operation down. God forbid the celebrity comes around from the table to see the person. And all of that, it just sort of helps a lot of these, I think, the organizers out to feel like we just get them gone as quick as possible.
I just wanted to correct something real quick, because if you are requesting an accommodation, it is not true that you cannot be asked to disclose your disability. You can be. You cannot be asked or forced to disclose your disability if you're not asking for an accommodation. But if you're asking for an accommodation, for example, it's very obvious. If you are blind, you need to tell them you're blind so that they can do things to, aid your ability to move without being able to see, right? That's something you have to tell them. You can't just expect them to divine the knowledge that you are blind. And this is a very important thing, once you ask for a disability, they are allowed to ask you what your disability is. They don't as a matter of practice, because they don't want to put their employees in the position of having to determine what's a valid disability and what's not. It's more a PR thing than it is a legal thing, because you could imagine, as we've discussed before, many of these employees are volunteers. They're not paid, or if they are paid, they're paid minimally. And so they don't want these untrained, minimally paid people making decisions. And, God forbid, one of them, you're not disabled. And then, it causes a public relations nightmare. That's why they're so giving with these stickers, or these passes. So it is interesting, because if they clamp down, they could request a freaking doctor's note if they wanted to. And or better yet, they could request that people ask for a reasonable accommodation, and then they could determine whether that accommodation is reasonable or not. That's something that's within their rights to do. And so this is one of those things where people think they know a lot about this, and most people don't, because it sounds good that you want to help people who are disabled, but actually disabled, that term carries weight, and there's degrees of disability, and oftentimes someone having a back problem or having some kind of injury with a for example, if someone says they can't stand in line for a long time, a reasonable accommodation could be to provide those people seats.
Yeah, for sure, that would make sense.
You don't have to let them skip.
More so than just letting them skip.
You don't have to let them skip. You provide them seats. You can, there's so many ways that they can handle this. And so I think people got spoiled a little bit. We said before that the current model for a lot of these shows was unsustainable. When a lot of these shows, you look at the VIP line, and there's more ADA people in that VIP line than there are VIP people in the VIP line. And it's like, at that point, the show is giving away money, which is, not something they want to do.
No.
So it was interesting to see it live happening in Fan Expo, because I do think this is inevitable. I don't know because NYCC is kind of a well-oiled machine, and I'm not sure they're itching to change things up anytime soon, but certainly
Yeah.
Rhode Island might be.
It's really not it's nothing with NYCC that you really see like as a large scale complaint. Like everything is complained about on a minute level, but like it was never something you see like dominating like all the comments. But I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think the smaller shows could definitely follow suit because it gets to a point where even the most moral person, when you look at the system of what it was, where you have VIPs and ADAs all in one line, taking an ADA sticker to get VIP perks is really hurting nobody but the con. Because if you paid the money, you're still in the line in front of people with ADA. Like you're still making the poor handicapped person wait. In theory, you're just not giving the con $300 extra.
Yeah,
so
or
that
more.
was
Yeah,
the problem.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're right. It's true. It's fundamentally true. And so, yeah, I mean, you're right that in NYCC there are not a lot of complaints about this, but certainly at Steel City when they phased this out, there were a lot of complaints.
Oh yeah.
At least at first. And I suspect, initially there were people. I mean, I saw all kinds of complaints about this for Fan Expo initially, and I suspect it'll die down too because the truth of it is you're not entitled to what you think you are, and you look morally you might be. I don't know what the moral thing is as far as how much we ought to accommodate people. I think, and this might be, I don't know. I find myself changing a little bit as I get older, but like I believe it's more important to provide those kinds of accommodations at places like the public library and the grocery store and the post office, as opposed to the convention where you're paying for autographs. The necessities as opposed to the luxuries. But at the same time, I do want a broad, diverse population to have unfettered access to these kinds of events that makes them more fun.
Yes, the handicap should be able to waste their money foolishly, just like the rest of us.
Exactly. We should all be celebrated in our frivolous, wasteful spending on this nonsense. Speaking of frivolous nonsense, I told you I ended up buying the Bianca Belair. So, just nonsense, totally irrational.
We can't get into our Fanatics hype yet.
That's true. I just dropped $100 today for nothing, and it's like I don't know why I do the things that I do, but I'm excited about Fanatics. It's weird because it seems like that's like our next show coming up, but it's almost a month away. 3 weeks now, 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a nice little breather. Although, I mean, even this weekend I got a little something coming up. So, I mean, for me, there's not much of a breather. For you, you have a little bit more.
What do you have this weekend?
Well, I think we're skipping ahead, but I got
it's what the next thing. What's coming up for us?
Oh, well, this weekend I will be popping into the K&S Sportatorium for Jeff Jarrett.
How much could you possibly have for Jeff Jarrett?
I have the new AEW figure, which is actually really nice, and I have the NWA title that I just picked up from the collection.
Oh my god, that's nutty. That's nutty. I don't know. I have to object, but I guess whatever.
But listen, Jeff, I'm a huge Jeff Jarrett fan.
Really? Why?
He's in my top 20 all time, perhaps.
That's preposterous. That's not true.
I'm a Jarrett guy.
I don't know if I would. I'm being dead serious. I don't know if I put him in my top 1,000.
I like the TNA run, the King of the Mountain. He was excellent.
I'm saying top 1,000 maybe. That's it. That's wild to me. And that definitely speaks to our age difference though a little bit, because I only saw him when he was past his prime. I didn't see the mid 90s run at all. So I've heard now his modern run, his current run is actually pretty fun.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I've enjoyed.
I haven't seen
the Last Outlaw. He's doing pretty well for himself. I haven't watched AEW in 2 months. So I don't know what the hell he's doing now. But
my problem with Jeff Jarrett is his WCW run. The whole thing of it, every single second of it was bad.
I enjoyed the TNA run in the early WWF, going up to when he left. WCW was probably the I don't remember very much of that. era.
Oh, with
So.
Vince Russo and the
Yeah.
stroke, and every second of it was bad. So that and you know, my being a WCW guy, it definitely colors my view. It wouldn't be marked out radio if we didn't bring up the fact that you paid $1,300 for an Ice Cube photo op coming up in September. Are you still excited about it?
I mean, yeah, I paid 2 of your iced Mr. T's for 1 ice cube, which
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure what sounds more insane. That much for a Mr. T or this much for an ice cube. I think the correct answer is it's all insane.
It's all insane. And I'm poking fun, but I mean, if you had told me that it was 600, not 1,300, I would have gone for it. That's the truth. And that's asinine, $600. It's ridiculous. But then again, I flew to San Francisco and spent over $1,000 to meet the kids in the hall. So there's issues all around with this stuff. I'm excited. Upcoming to do our Fanatics hype episode that's coming soon, a couple weeks away.
Listen, by the time we do this episode, they may add Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant. I was gonna try and work in an Ed Gale joke, but I'm really tired. So just if you can come up with a good Ed Gale joke related to Andre the Giant, just pretend like we said something funny there.
You're hopefully better than my pun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it though. We do have an announcement for WrestleCon. You make the announcement because I don't want to screw it up.
Okay. As a result, and this is sort of the gift and the curse. Booking active WWE talent comes with dealing with WWE conditions and requirements and different commitments. That's the word I was looking for. So our booking schedule has changed slightly. The other night we received a text from the Swipe Right boys, and they have a ID WWE commitment on Friday, which is when they were booked. So we are unable to have them on Friday, but fear not. We've moved some things around, and we will now have Swipe Right appearing on Saturday, August 2nd from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And right after Swipe Right ends and they leave with your girls to go do all sorts of just, nasty things.
Unmentionable things.
Yes. We will then have Jackson Drake and Sean Legacy coming from 12 until 2. If I was like other vendors, I would just go ahead and say this is a birthday party because, it's my birthday and we must be close personal friends with all of these guys since we're booking them. But it's not a birthday party. It is a convention appearance with active WWE NXT talent. And, that's the deal. So I'm updating all the graphics as we speak, updating the website. By the time this drops, that should all be updated. And I'm just relieved that we were able to sort of work around the WWE schedule.
How do you think if Ed Gale were alive, he would react to Brad Baylor, Ricky Smokes, and Jackson Drake being in the same room at the same time?
I mean, if he thought they were a little bit younger, he'd probably be very excited. But I think they're young enough; he could still like them.
Well, you remember the joke that I don't want to say, but what Jackson Drake said at PWJ. Jackson Drake.
There was also a joke that someone made about gear, which I don't want to make either.
Yes, Jackson. He attracts a particular demographic, yes. and he knows that. So that was part of the joke. Anyway, I'm so glad we were able to make this work. There was a bit of a panic mode.
I fully panicked. I texted you. I texted you a word.
You're really funny in that you come across the cool cucumber to people, and I was not worried. I mean, I don't. To be fair, in life, it really takes me to worry about anything. I don't know. I sort of a blessing. I don't get nervous. I don't get worried. I don't really it takes a lot for my blood pressure to go up. It just does. See, I don't get nervous about things. My mentality is always like, we'll work. It'll be fine. We'll figure it out. That's always how I think about things.
I was watching TV and I have my, the Apple Watch. And the second I felt the little vibration and I saw the name Ricky Smokes pop up on my screen, I'm like, oh God, he's not reaching out to get a restaurant recommendation. Like, this is something. and sure enough, it was. But it all worked out.
Yeah, and they were. Look, we made it happen. It's 2 hours instead of 3, which is not ideal. But that means is in a way it's a blessing that everyone's there on the same day. So you get to WrestleCon on Saturday, you get to meet all 4 guests. 2 hours is a decent amount of time for these guys. We'll just move it through a little bit quicker. Oh, now I have the hiccups too. That's fantastic. So all's well that ends well. I'm happy about it. So anyway, WrestleCon, what it does is it frees us up on Friday. We still have our table. I wonder what we should do with it.
I was actually thinking about that. We got to talk off camera if we want to. Well, not off camera, off air. If we want to actually set up and sell Maria and other things.
I don't know if we're allowed at the talent tables to sell merch because some shows have restrictions on that.
I'm gonna have to hit up Mike and see.
We'll have to look up, or possibly sublease it out to a guest or something. We got to figure it out. Maybe we can do something with the table, because we do have it on Friday. The thing is, on Friday we want to be there. I want to enjoy it a little bit, and maybe possibly go to WWE World or whatever they have that day. We'll see.
It actually. This lets us have a little bit of our own enjoyment of SummerSlam weekend rather than just be working the whole time.
Truthfully, we should try and get Swipe Right to get us comped into their WWID engagement. Maybe give that a shot. Yeah. We'll see. Anyway, August 2nd, all our guests will be there. Everything's still great.
Hondos,
absolutely. And those guys, it keeps getting bigger and better. They're just on TV all the time. I don't know if you've noticed, but their stuff on social media is just getting more and more and more engagement. It used to be they used to post that it would go into the void. I do think Jackson needs to up his social media game a little bit. He just doesn't care about that stuff, or he just doesn't do it as much. But Brad and Ricky's stuff is getting engagement all the time. And when WWE is posting their stuff, it's getting a lot of engagement now. Those two are hated. Let me tell you, it's fantastic. It's very old school.
Yeah, and knowing them ever so slightly like we do, I mean, they love it. They're not they don't want to be loved. I don't even know if they would honestly. This is gold for them, and it's really just crazy. It's fun to watch their followers go up.
Yeah, and meanwhile, super babyface Shawn Legacy is just killing it.
I can't. I mean, I don't even think Shawn Legacy would tell you he expected this, because it's just crazy. I don't think talk about something to put the ID program on the map. We've talked about the benefits for that. There's a no-lose situation for the talent. We obviously haven't divulged I don't think the exact details are public of exactly what they're making on a weekly basis. But I mean, forget that. The fact that you are a guy right here that's unsigned on a real committed level, and you're on NXT with a real platform, and you have this ability to do what you're doing. As Legacy is, if I'm an indie talent, no matter who I am, top to bottom, I want to be on this ID list. You would sell your firstborn to be on this ID list.
Yep, it seems like a one-way ticket to the bigs. That's what it appears. I mean, it's such a cool thing. It's such a weird, the whole way that we came about sort of being involved with this and coming up with this idea. It's such a weird thing of how this evolved, for terrible puns included here. But I'm very excited for WrestleCon. I'm very excited for these guys. Did you? I sent you the link. I don't know. Did you catch the stuff with Lindsay Dorado and Jackson Drake?
I didn't get to. I saw the photos. I'm 2 episodes back. It was my wedding anniversary this week. I was running around, but this weekend I'm gonna catch up on all things Evolve, NXT. I gotta catch it all.
Because the dirty little secret about all of it is Jackson's the best worker of all of them. That kid can go. He is phenomenal. So it's crazy at 21 how good he is. So I'm the sky is the limit for all these guys. It's insane how good he is. You see in that man, freaking Lindsay can still go too. It's kind of awesome to watch. I'm excited that they're using him again too. It's cool putting him on TV a little bit. So if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com or our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. And frankly, join that Facebook group and make some posts, and perhaps you will reach 100,000 people and go viral because the group's picking up steam. Like constant posts. The group's never been bigger, never been busier.
No, I mean, absolutely right. You can go viral. You can have promoters threaten to slap you. You could be called a little rat. I mean, the possibilities are endless, but absolutely the group is on fire. Absolutely join it. And we have several private signings coming up. We will be with Sean Legacy twice. We will be with Cappuccino Jones. We will be with Zeta Steele. We will be with Marcus Mathers. We will be with Jackson Drake twice. Smiley Kylie Ray, Emily J, and then of course we will be accepting mail order and mail prints through the mail for Swipe Right. We have varying due dates on all of these. Sean Legacy, as we said last week, they are staggered. People that order before our first signing will be handled on the first signing. And if you get the order in after the deadline, you will then be handled on the second signing. So get those orders in. And we also have Mike Tyson, one of the most iconic boxers of all time, and perhaps one of the most iconic personalities of all time of any genre. That is courtesy of Fitterman, and that will be in November at Big Event.
Have we been? I forgot to ask you. Have we been cleared to announce that other private that we worked out for August, or not yet?
Not yet. I still have to reach out and make sure that we're able to announce it.
Right. I know what a tease that is, but yeah, we worked out something interesting for August that I'm excited about. Hopefully we can announce it. It would suck if we had to do it in the dark, but it wouldn't be our first rodeo at that.
Nope.
So
either way, it's exciting stuff.
Absolutely. So it's definitely late on the East Coast. It's still relatively early over here in scenic Salt Lake City, but it's late for you guys. So it's about time for us to wrap this up. Do you agree?
Yeah. I say we call it a night before we make any more bad puns.
God, weird Ed Gale jokes, and probably want to edit that one out. If you know what, the only benefit is that I'm too lazy to do it, so it's going to be in there. so for markedout.com, Marked Out Collectibles, and Marked Out Radio, I'm Sean.
I'm Dana,
and we'll see you next week from the mountain.